Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com, and this is the Gutters Traveler's Edition, which is kind of funny because as I am driving to work, I am recording this, and I wanted to talk about my recent travels and an upcoming bit of traveling. First of all, back in February, I think it was the second week in February, my wife and I decided to go to Ireland, and we spent 6 days there. It was in celebration of our 25th wedding anniversary, which is coming up later this year. It was just one of those, actually it was a spur of the moment trip. It's not something we normally do. We are planners as far as travel goes, where we will actually months and months ahead of time plan everything out and buy the tickets and pay for everything and all that stuff. But for this trip, we kind of winged it a little bit. Anyway, what I wanted to talk about, I don't want to talk about that trip necessarily in specifics, but what I do want to talk about regarding that trip is that one of my goals was to go to some comic book shops while we were there, and we were based in Dublin, and we did some travels outside of the city. But I found a couple comic book shops based in Dublin when I did some searches online. Unfortunately, because of what we had planned to do while we were in Ireland, I only was able to make it to one. And this is after I looked for it as we were walking around the streets of Dublin. I found a couple addresses for this place. It's called Sub-City Comics. And so I found the street that I thought it was on, and we went up and down the street and didn't see it. But then as we were driving along in one of the city buses, it's called a hop-on, hop-off bus, if you're familiar with that. And we were just driving along to one of our destinations, and I happened to look off to one side, and boom, there it is. So I'm like, oh, we got to go, Kitra, my wife. And so she was gracious enough to allow it on our 25th wedding anniversary trip. So I was able to make it to Sub-City Comics. Oh, I just want to mention the other one was Dublin City Comics, and that was in the northern part of the city, the north, as they say, north of the Liffey. And I just wasn't able to get up to where it was exactly. So I feel bad about that, but that will be for another trip in the future because we do plan on going back. Anyway, back to Sub-City. So I wanted to stop in specifically not just to go to a comic book shop because, comic book shops are pretty much the same no matter where you go, at least as far as I found. This shop was no different, really. I mean, they had their new books on the shelf, and they had some back issues, and they had a bunch of stuff, trades and stuff, things on the walls, figurines, just your typical comic book shop stuff. But I specifically wanted to go to see if there were any local comic book creators whose books were being sold there. And I already knew that Sub-City was involved in that because there is, I think it's called Atomic Diner, is the publisher. Anyway, that person is involved with Sub-City Comics in some way. I'm not sure exactly how. And there were a bunch of comics from Atomic Diner, and I got 3 issues of a book called League of Volunteers, issues 1 through 3. I haven't read them yet, as of this recording, but they look like fun. It looks like a mix of superheroes and Irish history. There were a bunch of other books as well of various numbers, issues. There was an issue 2 of something, an issue 4 of something. I don't remember exactly. But now I really wished I would have bought at least a few more different books as opposed to 3 copies of the same book. Oh well. While I was there, as I was purchasing those 3 books, the guy behind the counter is kind of a tall, thin guy, dark hair, and I forgot his name. Anyway, so I put down the books to buy them, and he's like, "I'm in these." I'm like, "Okay." And he proceeds to he opens up one of the books and points to one of the characters in there, and he said that's me, and indeed that character did look like him, and then he proceeds to tell me that the artist will put him in these books, all these books. So I thought that was kind of cool. But what was more important to me was how excited this guy was to show me this. It was a really cool experience. I'm glad we went. And then about a month later, so this is the beginning of March, I went to Philadelphia to attend the 10th anniversary celebration. Oh, see, here's a theme. It's an anniversary type thing. Anyway, it's the 10th anniversary celebration of Comic Geek Speak, and they very nicely invited their listeners and fans to come to Golden Eagle Comics in I think it's Reading. I want to say Reading, Pennsylvania, because I went out there. There's all these little, not little. There's all these little. Well, I keep saying little. There's all these places, these towns, and they just kind of blend into each other. And so I wasn't sure if I was in Reading or Wyomissing or some other place. Anyway, so I went to Golden Eagle Comics to attend that. But first, so I arrived Friday night after a long day's travel, and there was a informal get-together with some of the geeks and some of the other people coming in to attend the celebration. And it was at this Mexican restaurant. And if you knew me personally, you would know that I tend not to be an extrovert, despite the fact that I put this podcast out every once in a while. But you're not talking to me, you're not seeing me doing this. So anyway, I tend to shy away from attending gatherings like that, especially when I don't know anybody. And while I have, over the last almost 10 years, been a listener of Comic Geek Speak, and I feel like I've gotten to know these guys, I've only met a few of them, and I've only talked to them, for a total of a few minutes, really. With the exception of Peter, we've talked for hours when he guest hosted on my podcast. But besides that, I don't really know any of these guys. And so I decided on that trip that I would play against my type, and I actually went to the dinner, which was great because even though I got there late because of traffic getting from the Philadelphia airport, and then my GPS was kind of wonky and kept putting me places like a block away from where they actually were. So I ended up not getting to the restaurant in time, and it was just about, or everybody else was just about done with their dinner when I arrived. But despite that, I sat there at the end of the table. I talked to a couple guys that were sitting there, Chad and Eric, another Eric. That was kind of cool to meet another Eric. But they made me feel welcome, and Chad even took my number and would text me throughout the weekend to let me know what was going on and if there were any change in plans and all that stuff. So that was really cool. And then Saturday was the big day where they were Comic Geek Speak were going to do the recording. But before that, we were supposed to go to Shady Maple, a smorgasbord type place. You pay a certain price and you get all this food that you can eat. Because I screwed up and got up late and whatnot, I ended up missing breakfast with everyone, even though Chad very nicely offered to save me a seat at their table. I missed it, and then from there we left, and there was supposed to be a tour of the CGS studios. Unfortunately, we missed that too, which was really too bad because that was actually one of the things that I wanted to actually attend. I mean, the breakfast would have been nice, but I wanted to see the studio. I mean, I've seen pictures of the studio online and whatnot. I've heard them talk about it. But to be in there, it's kind of a fanboy thing I wanted to go do. Anyway, so then we went to Golden Eagle Comics at, I want to say Fairgrounds Square Mall or something like that. Anyway, went to that. when I first got there, I talked to Shane a little bit, one of the hosts of Common Geek Speak. Talked to Peter, Murd. Peter introduced me to Chris Eberly, which was really cool. I had never met him, and then they did the recording, which was really, really cool. It was 3 hours of them just riffing off of each other and talking about the past, taking questions from the audience. There was a little trivia game that Matt, one of the other geeks, came up with, which was interesting. He put all these little pieces of paper inside these pair of jeans, and you had to reach into the pocket to get them, and there were pressure points in the pockets where it would play audio. And some of the questions were a bit strange, but they were funny. So I appreciated Matt's sense of humor. And then eventually I actually got up and asked a question, which is kind of a lame question, but the other question I wanted to ask, which I will share with you in a moment, I felt didn't quite fit the mood of the session, the recording. So I scrapped that and came up with this one question at the last second, because I really wanted to get up, not just to ask the question, but I really wanted to get up and talk to the geeks and tell them how I felt about their show and the impact their show and they themselves have had on me over the years. So I did that to show my thanks. And then I asked that stupid question. But the question I really wanted to ask was, who is the Shannon Doherty of the group? And if you know, I was curious if everybody would know what that meant, but I'm not going to explain it. You have to look it up if you don't know. Anyway, I just had to get that out there. I had that question in my head for like weeks before the show, and I just wanted to actually ask it. Anyway, so afterwards, I did a little bit of looking around at Golden Eagle, and then Peter very, very graciously asked if I wanted to hang out with him and a bunch of folks that were going to a Thai place nearby. So I did that, and then afterwards, a bunch of people were converging on. It's a bar called Third and Spruce, which was on Third and Spruce in, I don't remember what town now it was. Anyway, maybe it was Wyomissing. Anyway, that was great. I had some beer. Just sat and talked with a bunch of people. It was really, really cool. And then went home because I wasn't feeling good. I was sick before I left. I almost didn't go because of the way I was feeling. But the tickets were bought, and this was literally a once in a lifetime opportunity. There won't be another 10th anniversary celebration of Common Geek Speak. So I went. Anyway, by the end of the day, and because I drank a little bit, I was really tired. Plus, I was still getting used to the time change a little bit. So went back to the hotel room and crashed. Sunday, I got up intending to go. I wasn't going to do this. I was actually going to go back into Philadelphia to visit the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall, some of the historical sites of the area. But because of a conversation I had with, I think it was Peter, the day before, I decided that I would go to Chris's store, Wild Pig Comics, which was in Kenilworth, I think, New Jersey, which was about 2 hours away by car. And I had made tentative plans with one of the geeks, Kevin. He said something about wanting to go. Peter mentioned that some people wanted to go. So Kevin actually gave me his number and said let him know if I was going to go, which I did, but then something came up and he couldn't. So anyway, I went by myself, traveled 2 some odd hours to go to the shop, and it was great. I saw again Bill, who is the manager of the store. I had met and spoken with him the night before, and so when I came in, he recognized me and welcomed me. Actually gave me a tour of the shop, which I thought was really cute and really cool because it's a small shop. It really is. In my head, over the years, Wild Pig and Golden Eagle are like these huge, massive places where all these comics and comic fans gather. And really, they're just, your typical small comic book shop. So that was an interesting discrepancy in my brain. But while I was there, I actually did some more shopping there and found a couple DC archives for $20. These are normally $50. And so I got a Robin archive, because I'm a huge Robin fan. And I found the Comic Cavalcade, which was a bunch of stuff from the DC's Golden Age. So I bought those, and a few single issues. I bought a couple comics for my granddaughters. Yeah, it was good. I really enjoyed that, and then I traveled 3 hours back because my GPS was not set to go through the toll places or toll points or whatever you want to call them. And so I took this circuitous route through the small towns of New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And oh my God, I was so glad to be back in my hotel room. 3 hours. It was about 3 hours. It may have been a little bit more actually later. Anyway, came back home. Had a great time though. But coming up at the end of March, in just a couple weeks as I record this, I will be going, I and my family, my wife Kitra, my two granddaughters, we took them last year, we're taking them again. We're going to Emerald City Comic-Con 2015. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be jam-packed. I saw an email update from Emerald City Comic-Con saying that all of their passes, 3-day passes and single-day passes, were sold out. This is like, I think, about a month and a half before the show. So I think they had I want to say 70, or 80,000. I don't remember the number last year. It was a lot of people. And it's going to be even more jam-packed this year. But that's okay because, it's a lot of fun. Despite the huge crowds to wade through. Instead of getting from point A to point B in just a few minutes, it takes a lot more minutes when there's that many people, especially Saturday. Saturday is the worst. Worst of the best. So I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We really enjoy this. Madison, who has appeared on the podcast a couple times, she's 9 now, and she really wants to go. She really likes this stuff. She's really into Batgirl. She loves to read comics, which is great. And we also asked if they wanted to dress up, because that was one of the things that they loved last year was seeing all the people dressed up as these characters, the superheroes. And so we actually ordered them costumes. So Madison is actually going to be going as a Harley Quinn character, and Gabriella, who is 10, will be going, I think it was Supergirl. It's either Supergirl or Wonder Woman. I can't remember. And I myself plan to put on a costume of a sort and look really horrible, I know, but I want to do it. I'm going to go as Robin. It's the Halloween costume from the Arkham. It's one of the Arkham games. I can't remember which one, but it looks really cool. I mean, the costume on the model online, when I look at it, looks really cool. I got it and put it on, and I don't look very cool, but I'm going to do it anyway because I love Robin, and the girls are dressing up, and I thought it'd be kind of a cool thing to do with them. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's my little story about traveling recently within the last couple months. So I hope to see people there that are listening to the show that may be coming to Emerald City Comic-Con. If you are going, please let me know. I'd love to stop and talk with you, say hi, if you'd like to do that anyway. You can always let me know by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com. Or you can leave comments below where this audio recording is posted. Thanks for listening, everybody. Bye-bye.